Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. As you know, if you've been a long-time subscriber, I've featured some of the most iconic people in the hobby on my channel. I've featured Andrew Jones, Steve McCormick, Edgar Schwery, Stavros Danov, some of the most amazing systems, show reports from around the globe, which, speaking of which, I'm going to Munich in a couple days, and then a whole week after that, spending time in Italy, touring various facilities. But there's also somebody else in Italy, Mark Levinson, which is going to be the topic of today's video and many videos to come, in parts because I had a 2-hour Zoom. And Mark Levinson, of all the people I featured, is probably the most iconic, certainly in terms of there isn't somebody that I know of in the hobby that is still alive that has been in the industry longer. Maybe Jocks with Oracle, another person I've featured, has been similar amount of time in the hobby, but Mark Levinson is an iconic figure in the hobby and has always been an innovator and somebody that even at this stage, 2024, from 1974, he's still innovating and doing creative things, which at first I knew of him just from anecdotal and, you know, lusting after his gear when I was young and couldn't afford it in the 80s and 90s, to him losing the brand to, or selling it to, Harman, and then his other iterations, Cello in particular, which we're going to talk about certain things in this Zoom. It went 2 hours because I've always had questions for him that I haven't seen in various interviews before. And I wanted to have my own take on it and ask some tough questions, ask some questions that just applied to me, and things that also were synonymous with my ethos in the hobby as well, which I found that there's even more congruency with Mark Levinson than I thought. I knew he was very innovative with EQ, doing an analog EQ. The cello palette was one of the most seminal pieces in the hobby, kind of an EQ preamp, just a work of art, state-of-art engineering, like a fine watch, and still to this day, people lust after that piece. But he's always been about and working with other great minds like Dick Berwin, Tom Colangelo, Bob Curl. These are people that he's been able to collaborate with, and brilliant people, to make incredible products. And you'll hear me in this interview refer to him kind of as the Steve Jobs of the audiophile realm, because he's been so good at not only the marketing side, but collaborating with people, getting visionary, and putting the people together necessary to follow through on that vision. And the point is that even in 2024, he's innovating and creating a new product and a new brand called Daniel Hertz. Now, it has actually been out for a while. It's been a long venture to get this started because, as you'll hear in this Zoom, it's been taking years and tons of money. This is basically a tech company. They make their own chips, semiconductors. This is not something that any company that I know of in this industry would dare to undertake. But it fits his ethos and also mine of advancing the hobby forward. What can we do different? What can we do better? Yes, active crossovers, DSP, that's all going to be part of his Daniel Hertz product, as you're going to hear. But he's also putting everything in one box, something that's state-of-the-art and allows you to eliminate all these extra power cords, power supplies, ground planes, input and output stages. Everybody seems to think that you need to break things up into multiple parts. We've been conditioned and brainwashed. But as you're going to hear from his mouth, but you've heard it from me as well, that's not the most optimal way. And sometimes it's just done to sell you a bunch of stuff. And that's why I wanted to start with this one small part of the Zoom interview I wanted to share with you guys, because it kind of gives you an inspiration and appreciation for Mark Levinson of why he's still in the hobby, why he created Daniel Hertz, and what industry issue did he see, same issue kind of that I've seen and mentioned over the years, that he's trying to address with this company. And then in subsequent parts, you're going to hear how he's addressing that with his products with Daniel Hertz and C-Wave and even speakers, and doing an all-in-one system that is state-of-the-art, bespoke, and is end game right from the start, not based on giving you neuroticism and constantly needing to upgrade. But also, I'll be honest with you, the whole reason this interview popped up to begin with is that when I heard his C-Wave and Daniel Hertz products in Montreal, I started to do research because I knew very little about it. And I never like to not know something that's the buzz of the industry. And when I did dive into his patent, I had a lot of questions, especially when it came to the part of health benefits and stuff that his C-Wave addresses supposedly. And so part of this was because I had a lot of questions, tough questions, and he knew going in that I was going to give him tough questions. It wasn't just going to be a head nodding interview, although I head nod and agree with most everything he's doing, up until the point of when we talk about the health benefits. But it was very impressive that he wanted to take these questions, explain what went into it. And as I probably learned from my own perspective, is that everything is much more nuanced than what sometimes you can just read off of a patent, which you can just assume. When you get to know the person, have them answer the questions, it may not change your judgment one way or the other per se, but you get a total picture. And this is what I think more people need to do in the hobby. We have these knee-jerk conclusions being made and fighting and drama and whatnot, collaborating like we did here. This is how a manufacturer should respond to questions and issues. And also at the same time, this is a manufacturer who is a leader, an iconic figure. And I think by the time you get, I probably will release most of this 2 hours. I just have to break it up, obviously, because there's not nobody's going to watch 2 hours straight. And it really is good partitions to the electronics, the speakers, C-Wave, and then the health benefits. So stay tuned for those parts coming soon. Don't miss any of those. This is going to be one of the best video series I've ever done. But enjoy this part one where he talks about the macro industry issues in general, which led him to start addressing it with the C-Wave and Daniel Hertz products that you're going to learn a lot more about coming soon. Enjoy, guys.
There's something wrong with the audio world today, in my opinion, just my opinion. And if you don't mind, I'd like to express that view.
Sure.
Because I think it's really fundamental. When I started out in audio, it was about love of music, enjoying good audio, especially enjoying recordings. You know, what recordings were out there? Oh, this is a new one by Louis Armstrong. Oh, this is a new one by Bob Dylan. This is whatever. Very repertoire based. You had family-owned record stores, and they knew you. And when you walked in, they'd say, "Hey, we got this new recording by Ray Charles or something you might want to listen to," and whatever. That was personal. And today, what I feel is that the high-end audio world has become a racket, a mafia that tries to take as much money as possible from music lovers, whether for whatever the reason, just whatever it takes, just to get their money as much as possible. And it has nothing to do with the original spirit of the whole thing, which was to use engineering and craftsmanship in the service of music and reproducing recordings. And I don't want to have anything to do with it. It's just offensive to me. It's an insult to engineering. And it's just like magazines want to get the maximum of advertising. Why don't they write about Apple like a Mac Mini? Because Apple doesn't advertise in their magazines. So they write about servers because they advertise. And why won't a store recommend a Mac Mini? Oh, because servers make money. So we're going to recommend what makes money for us. Well, does anybody stop to think that many of the best recordings are made on Macs? That's where they come from. Maybe it might not be a bad solution for some people. Maybe not everybody. But it's all profit driven, And at the same time, using this old technology with nothing really new, just higher and higher prices, bigger and heavier, and this sort of, this is another, digital audio is one problem, but the other one is the business model of high-end audio, which is designed to sell the same people over and over and over again. Now, my philosophy is more like a musical instrument. I'd like to make an instrument that a musician might really love. They really love it. They get it. They play it. That's it. They don't have to be changing all the time. If you're looking for a piano and you check out Bösendorfer, Bechstein, Steinway, Yamaha, or maybe you check out a Fazioli and you fall in love with that Fazioli. You get the Fazioli. That's it. You're going to play it, enjoy it for the rest of your life. And later on, works for somebody else. And it's just, that's more my model, is the model of the artisan musical instrument maker that's making instruments. They don't say they're better than anything else. They just say, well, this is what I'm doing. If you like it, get one. If you don't get one. But, it's not about selling it. It's about making something and letting the musicians decide what's right for them. That's kind of what I'm doing. And it's just a different model. And it works for me. And that's another reason that Daniel Hertz is a small company, and I want to keep it very small. We're turning down a lot of requests for distribution because we don't make enough product. We just can't, not at this quality. And I don't want to do that. It's another thing. I don't want that industrial kind of business. I want to keep this very artisanal, like making musical instruments by hand, because I like it that way. And it gives me a chance to create something that is not part of that racket.
Yeah, well, you're preaching to the choir there in terms of it does definitely, that is a problem in the hobby. So coming from an icon like you, who basically is instrumental in progressing the hobby over the years, it's great to hear from you. Better than anything I could ever say, and probably worthy of its own video, your little excerpt right there.